right, we are back talking about the Biden and that voting anxiety that a lot of people seem to have. California Congresswoman Maxine Waters was on a panel at the Essence Festival of Culture where she completely dismissed the notion that President Biden's age should be a factor in running for re-election.
We're now at a point in time where people are talking about Biden is too old. Hell, I'm older than Biden.
You look good, Congresswoman.
And I get up every morning.
All right.
And I exercise.
All right.
And I work late hours.
All right.
I take care of black people.
All right.
Trump has told you who he is. He defined himself. He is a no-good, deplorable, lying, despicable human being. And he's talking about if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be violence. There's going to be a civil war. Who the hell do you think he's coming after? Who's going to be targeted? Who is he talking about? But you know he means business because he is the one that led the invasion on the Capitol January 6th. Now, do we have to talk about the difference between these two? Now, I want to tell you, no matter what anybody says, it ain't going to be no other Democratic candidate. It's going to be Biden, and we better know it.
Tamir, here's what we know. Somewhere in the universe, someone's printing up some T-shirts talking about how Trump is despicable and deplorable. I can assure you that. But what you said, would imagine more of that is needed in terms of Maxine Waters.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a term for that on the campaigns. We call them surrogates, people who go out and deliver the message and campaign on your behalf. And that was, she nailed it. You know, I saw it earlier this morning and I was like, yes, this is the message that needs to get out there, which is at the end of the day, we are too caught up in age and we need to really be caught up with what's at stake. And Auntie Maxine, she's always called out Trump before he was elected the first time. And having her out there and reconnecting with folks on this particular issue with this campaign, it's perfect. And you see Congressman Horsford next to her laughing because he knows, like, this is exactly it's the truth. And it's what's needed. It's what the people need to hear. Let's reset. Let's get back to reality here. Things will be dangerous. Trump has said so. And when he said he was going to do certain things before he got elected, what is the first thing that he did when he was elected? He put a ban on Muslims coming to the United States. And he wasn't as emboldened, as empowered as he is now. And if he gets reelected, we're going to see worse. And we need to keep that in the front of our minds. Oh, I'm not so excited about who's on the ballot. Okay, are you excited about keeping yourself safe? Let's go ahead and let's make sure he's not president again.
Yeah. Dr. Malvoy, I want to throw this to you. I know that you have been down to the Essence Festival of Culture. This is the place where you do go to get people talking.
Absolutely. And the stage is always hot. This is, I'm happy that Kamala was there, but I wish that President Biden could have been there as well. That's the kind of retail politics that he's so good at, touching people, empathizing with people. But sisters are there, sisters and brothers. A lot of folks are there, and it's hot, hot, hot. And it's hot in New Orleans, too. But it's hot, hot, hot. And so these are the kind of things that I think he very much needs to do. When I listened to Congresswoman Waters, I could call her Maxine because she's my friend. When I listened to her, I thought about, who came to my mind was Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. Dr. Height was 98 when she made her transition in 2010. Until only a few months before she made her transition, she went to the office Ed Day. Do you hear me? Ed Day. And she went in there clean as the Board of Health with her hat and gloves on. I never saw her slow up. As a matter of fact, there was one occasion where actually she had more stamina than me. We had gone to some event and there was an after party and she said, "Do you want to go to the after party?" I'm like, no. I don't think so. She said, well, it would be rude for us not to go. I'm like, really? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. And she said, oh, come on, let's go. So we went. She's an elder. She was an elder, but she believed in our people and she went where she needed to be. President Biden doesn't quite have that stamina, but he has that willpower. So you can't write off people because they're elder. Because I mean, we have to have an intergenerational society. And what Joe Biden has probably got more than these fools who are talking about him leaving have ever known. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he knows public policy. He knows what he's doing. And so I think that, you know, having him at the Essence Fest would have been a coup. I don't know what's going on. I did not like what I saw today with those aggressive reporters harassing Karine, the press secretary. It was one guy who just was really out of order, trying to get her to say something. She said 3 times, I can't say that. But they're trying to put people in a box to say something is wrong with President Biden. And what they need to say is, what's right with President Biden? And what's wrong with that orange man? I would encourage everybody who has some doubts to read Project 2025. Now, you don't have to read the whole thing because it's 900 pages. It is 900 pages, so you really don't want to read the whole thing. You probably will upchuck at least 5 times as you go through the first 20 pages. But they laid it out. Number one, they would eliminate the civil service. All these civil service jobs, they say, these should be presidential appointees. Do you know between 38,000 and 50,000 people work for civil service? And all of us know a disproportionate number of them are African Americans. And African Americans, in terms of employment, are paid better with civil service than they are in the regular labor market. So they would get rid of that. They would get rid of, the Supreme Court has already got rid of the regulatory agencies. I mean, I could go down the list, I won't. But all I would say to people, or just read a summary, or go on my webpage. I have a column where I lay it out. We do not need to be ignorant. And that lying person, I'm cleaning myself up over Congo. You're influencing me positively. But that lying person, he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. He is a liar and a coot. To go back and he lies more easily. My grandmother used to say to one of my relatives who was a liar. She said, "Why tell the truth what a lie will do?" And that's him. I mean, why not just lie? Just lie.
And you know what?
But
I would say a lot of people
put Project 2025 in the hair, and Ben Carson has a chapter in there. Steve Miller has a chapter in there. All his cronies have chapters in there. So don't tell me, don't what on me and tell me that it's raining.
Even if you get to the table of contents of that 922-page report, you are correct. Just the first few pages are very telling. Now I have several questions for you, Dr. Dibinga, but I will start with this one. Do you think that it is time for health records of all the parties to be released? I know that Joe Biden has released some, and he says that he sees doctors every day. But do you think there should be something a little more formal from both candidates on a continuous basis leading up to the election on both sides, perhaps to make it fair?
Well, all I care about as it relates to that question is that it is fair and that it's equal, and that if one person has to do it, the other person has to do it or face the same consequences. As Biden said this morning in the call with Morning Joe, is that, since February, he released everything. So do people need it daily? Do they need it hourly? Do they need it weekly? He said he had a cold and other things and got checked out next day. But do we remember when Donald Trump's doctor, who he affectionately called Ronnie Johnson, and his name is Ronnie Jackson, at a rally when he was standing right there, Ronnie Jackson says something to the effect of, President Trump is the most fit president in the history of presidents, or something to that effect. And people just let that fly. Like, how does this guy, like I said, back when Trump was president, how does this guy even have a medical license still, right? And so that's what I'm talking about. The inconsistency is a problem. People have let them lie about Trump's height and his weight and all of these other types of things. And so I think that it's actually ridiculous that there's not a same standard. And let me just end with this, Candace. We're talking about seeing the same health records. We've also have never seen Trump's taxes. And Biden has released all of those. And so I'm saying there's never been a consistent playing field as opposed to the expectations, and have the level playing field and have consequences for both of them for not doing what has been said. But don't just have it on Biden to do this.
To me, what do you make of this Project 25? Certainly Trump has been trying to stay the distance away from it. He says that he knows nothing of it. However, at the same time, he says that he doesn't agree with what's in it. Those two can't happen at the same time. As Dr. Malveaux said, just read the first couple of pages and you know exactly where this is going and who's involved. Dr. Ben Carson has been on the campaign trail with Donald Trump. It seems to me that at some point they would have parsed that conversation about this 922-page document. What are your thoughts about all of this?
I couldn't agree with Dr. Malveaux more. I started reading it and it made me feel sick. And I was like, I cannot believe that this is where they want to see the country go. If people are also looking for a summary, the Biden campaign does have it on their website. It's really dangerous what they're trying to do and really completely change the way that we govern. And as it was mentioned, you have thousands of employees that are working for the government that are Black, that they are basically trying to discriminate against. They've continuously talked about smaller government, smaller government, smaller government. And we know what that means. That means cutting people from doing the work. And we have to remember the importance of federal workers. Even just with that recent Supreme Court case with, cutting down on regulation, like we need the FDA to make sure our food is safe. We need the Environmental Protection Agency to make sure we're actually breathing in clean air. And these are the things that are super important to keep us functioning on a day-to-day basis. And we know, unfortunately, in many instances, lower income communities suffer more from environmental discrimination and neglect, and also with healthcare. And then that also comes with the economy. All those things are connected. And if you don't have money, how can you pay to take care of yourself? And so when they're standing here trying to cut these different departments and these different programs that help aid and support, particularly people of color and low income Americans, it's frustrating to say the least, and it's frankly ridiculous. And I think that Trump is trying to distance himself from it right now because it's an unbelievable read. I didn't read all 900, but I read enough of a summary to know that this is actually scary, and you can't believe that someone actually thinks, or a group of people got together and said, this is what we're going to do as we move forward. And he's distancing himself because he doesn't want people to pay attention. But in actuality, this is the plan that they're going to do. The Heritage Foundation, the conservative think tank, is behind this. And we just really have to be aware of that and know that, again, I always am going to end with this point, that we have to vote, because that's the only way to not even have to deal with this reality that they're trying to put together.
No, that's right. Gavin, I think one of the things that I've been hearing from a few people today is, well, you know what, this report certainly has opened my eyes, and maybe it translates into people being more inspired to do more in order to get people to the ballot box, and in order to make sure that they understand what is going on in this world that is affecting them. Do you get this sense that perhaps this report might rally some folks up to do a little more?
Absolutely. Look, the stakes of this election could not be any higher. Project 2025 is one piece of evidence validating that theory. Another is the recent Supreme Court decision that was handed down, I guess that was last week, which essentially says that a president can do anything he or she wishes to, as long as it's in their official capacity, and they'll face no criminal liability. This essentially, as we prepare to celebrate July 4th, which is when our nation, got our independence from the British Crown, the decision essentially gave the American president the ability to act as a king or a queen. In a second Donald Trump presidency, that means that Donald Trump can literally carry out not only the terrible policies, the borderline illegal policies, in some cases straight up illegal policies contained in the pages of Project 2025, he could also order the assassination of his political opponents, whether they be Joe Biden, whether they be me, who was a political appointee in his administration, could be literally anybody, and he would face no criminal liability. So whether it's Project 2025 or whether it's the recent Supreme Court decision, the stakes of this election could not be any higher. However, I do believe that it's going to be imperative for the Biden campaign to not only continue to beat the drum about the stakes of this election and what Donald Trump is prepared to do in a second presidency, in a second term. I think it's imperative that the Biden campaign put forward an affirmative vision for what they seek to deliver for especially the Black community in a second term. We talked earlier about how the president needs to get out there to communities like Atlanta and Philly and Milwaukee and Detroit, and he's going. But we need more of that. We need Joe Biden to make a very clear and convincing case to Black voters, not only that Donald Trump is racist and a threat to our community, which he is, but we know that. Joe Biden needs to make a clear and convincing case continue to do that for what we will get from a second Joe Biden presidency. Like I said earlier, the Biden presidency so far has contained a historic list of accomplishments for our community, whether it's a historic rate of Black small business growth, a historic rate of historically low Black unemployment, or record low caps on prescription drugs for seniors when it comes to insulin for diabetes, which disproportionately is Black seniors. I believe the list is extremely long, but I want to hear from the president as he continues to get out there and travel and speak and engage with Black voters more that he plans to do in a second term. I've heard him talk extensively about free childcare, universal pre-K. I love some of these ideas, continuing his mission of delivering for the middle class. So I think he should continue to do that. I think he will, but it's going to be critical to make sure that Black voters not only recognize the danger of a second Donald Trump presidency, but also the incredible benefits that our community can glean in a second Joe Biden presidency.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with you, Tamia, before we let you go. Just your final word, final thoughts about what we are seeing unraveling today. We had Gavin that mentioned this big Supreme Court case. What's going on with democracy? If you we have about 30 seconds in terms of what people should keep in mind when they go to those polls.
Yes, and it's really about making sure that we keep democracy together, and that is important. And it's everything that we talked about. I'm trying to do this all in 30 seconds. It's keeping ourselves safe and protected, and able to keep our freedoms, and that's important. As I mentioned before, our ancestors died for these freedoms to be able to participate in the democratic process. We need to continue to do the same thing, and that really is voting for the Democratic candidate in this instance, and it would be President Biden. Thank you for having me here today.
Absolutely. Tamia D. Booker, founder and managing editor of T. Booker Strategies. Thank you for all of your insight.
All right, take care.
Time to get paid, blow up like
Fan base exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
I'm blowing up like you thought I, and if you don't know,